No help today on the scanner, just like the old days. I had to do the whole thing myself, which meant it took me 3 or 4 hours to do it. Instead of 2 hours. When they do it, it's like half the work, but they didn't do it. There's nobody around. I don't know where Rippy is, and I don't know what Pootie's doing. So the show must go on with or without them. I'm starting to get trolled again, which means somebody's not liking my content. Somebody's paying attention to me. All right, let's go back to this. We've finished with a public testimony. It's great testimony. Unfortunately, we know it doesn't mean anything, but I respect the testimonies. That's my favorite part of the board meetings. Let's see what's going on after that.
Said staff is taking a look at that.
Yeah, Warner, you know how I feel about
final
him.
action on this today, but we will be hearing a report from staff. So if you can stick around and listen, that would probably be helpful. But if not, I'm sure you'll be brought up to speed. And thanks again. So Jeff, is that it now?
That is it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to close the public forum then. And before we do get into our formal meeting, I just want to say a couple things and express to the union folks that it's been my desire, and I believe
you're such a liar,
to really have our staff work with ATU at the bargaining table to make changes to the apprenticeship and training programs that will benefit our employees and also meet the needs of Trimet and its mission to provide transit service to the public. There's clearly some disagreements.
Yeah, your mission is not just to, first of all, okay, look, I don't want to start up with this guy. Okay, we already know who he is, who he represents, and what his agenda is. All right, there's no defense for him. Okay, this guy really should be gone by now. We shouldn't be having to listen to him. But we're stuck with him because Oregon is as corrupt as every other place in the country. And they stick in their cronies and they make sure the people that they know they can count on are in these positions. So we're stuck with this guy for now. We can't get rid of him.
About the quality, the cost.
The cost.
And we
know that we were having this trouble. Guy's talking about cost. I sit here year after year watching these sock puppets give away hundreds of millions of dollars in pork. And he has the nerve to talk about the cost of the apprentice program. I mean, these people are every bit as bad as Trump. The only difference between them and Trump is that they lie with more couth. You know what I mean? He lied and it was obvious. These people lied and you can almost believe them if you didn't know better. But they're the same exact type of personalities.
We're meeting our staffing needs. So I think what I want to do is make it clear that we have trust that the Trimet management training team will bring the board, hopefully some agreed upon language that we can then support.
They're not going to give it.
It's probably not appropriate with us to meet with the union leadership until we've exhausted all of the opportunities at the bargaining table. So I do implore the union leadership to continue to come to the table.
You're not going to get anything from this motherfucker, all right? He's part of the fucking problem. They brought him in the day they brought McFarlane in. Do you understand? They brought him in at the exact same time as McFarlane. McFarlane's gone, okay? Because everybody hated his fucking guts. And so they brought in Kelsey. Well, Kelsey couldn't sweet talk everybody into giving them their fucking Southwest Corridor deal. Okay, which is what they were hoping. Okay, this guy is bad and he needs to go. And this just pissed me off listening to him. Okay, because you're listening to McFarlane here.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we are now talking about it to bargain in good faith and to figure out how we
can
develop a mutually beneficial agreement on how to improve our training programs for members and the agency. Because we want our employees to have advancement opportunities. We just think that there's better ways to provide a number of the training for our workers to help them move forward. So I'll ask Sam to give us a little more update.
How can you stand listening to this? I mean, this is why I stopped watching these things, because having to watch these people, it just pisses me off. You watch They get up here, and you know they're lying through their teeth, and there's nothing we're stuck with this, okay? It's like watching Biden. It's like watching Trump. It's all the same shit.
In his director's update this morning.
Why don't you explain to us why you're over a year after your term is ended, you're still here? Why don't you tell the public why you fucking are over a year since your term is ended, and yet you're still on the board and you're still chairman of this board? Why don't you bring that up, you fucking hack?
I want to get on the record that we want to work with the union on this.
You're fucking lying.
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to call
the
board meeting for March 24th, 2021 to order. And I do note that Director Way has been able to join us. I'm still not seeing Director Enders on the list, but I know we're trying to get him signed in. So we'll hopefully get to him before we get down to our resolutions today.
Oh, look.
And before we get into the board reports, I want to take an opportunity to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Laverne Lewis, who joins the Trimet board to serve District 6, which covers East Multnomah County. And the board has gotten to know Dr. Lewis a bit. She's a busy woman, serving on a number of boards for organizations that serve communities throughout the region, including the Mountain Community College Board, Rosemont Initiative, Northwest United Methodist Foundation, and I also know that she serves on the Greater Northwest Episcopal Area's Innovation and Vitality Team. And on top of this public service, Dr. Lewis is an adjunct professor of accounting at Portland Community College. And
yeah, this is what we need. We need all these insiders. You see, all these people all these big connected people with these big connected resumes, and they know everybody and everything. That's exactly what we need, right? I don't care what color they are. Why don't you get some real fucking people on this board? You know, people that aren't so fucking famous.
She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience
to
the board of directors, and spent nearly 18 years in law enforcement before.
Oh my God! She's a fucking cop! You gotta be kidding me!
Her most recent endeavors, and one additional note: Dr. Lewis was appointed and served 3 years on Oregon's advisory committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. So she's very qualified.
She's a cop.
Dr. Lewis, I should have introduced you probably before the public forum, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to say a few words to anybody who might be listening today. I'll turn it over to you.
Well,
Thank you, Director Warner, and good morning to everyone that is listening, everyone that's here, and all my fellow directors. It's a pleasure to be a part of Trimet, and I'm really
that's her. It doesn't look like
looking
her.
forward to diving in and hitting the ground running. Lots to learn, pacing myself, and it's just really wonderful to.
She was 18 years in law as a deputy. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Fuck! I didn't catch that.
Be part of the community that Trimet serves.
Just what you need, huh, folks?
Forward to serving East County as well as I can. That is my area, and I'm very active with the community, the neighbors, the constituents that live there. So thank you, and thanks for welcoming me this morning.
Yeah. Well, again, welcome to the Trimet board. Your contributions are appreciated already. I also want everybody to know that we have another new board member who's going to be joining us this summer, which is Thomas Kim, who's from District 1, which is my district, because on July 1, my term will end, and Mr. Kim will be...
Your term ended a year ago, motherfucker. Okay? They made special provisions for you, obviously. Shit.
Yeah, be on board then. And it's important to note with these two appointments, Trimet will have the most diverse board.
Yeah, I know. That's really important to have all these different faces on there. Unfortunately, they're all elites. Okay, this is very important to pretend that there's some kind of equity by appointing elites of a minority group. and somehow that's going to translate into some actual action. Well, it hasn't yet, has it? We had a black president, and what did he do? He sold everybody out.
Our agency's history, and that's something to be very proud of, and
Yeah,
we
we're
will
very
wear
proud.
as a badge of honor as our testament to the broad and diverse communities that we serve. So
You're not a
we look
broad,
forward to
diverse
accomplishing.
community. As a matter of fact, you're the least diverse city in the United States. Okay. Okay. Now here's the term. The term of a board member. I'm reading. I'm sorry. I got myself excited. Now I'm coughing again. I have COVID-19. A board member serves up to 2 4-year terms. It doesn't say 2 4-year terms and 1 additional year. Okay. The governor is just letting him stay on there because he's the head crony. This is an insider's club, man. You're not an insider. You don't get to be on it. This is as bad as any other governmental function that I know of in terms of how they handle their business and who gets the funding.
Coming on board too. So with that, I'm going to go right to the board reports. And the first board report is the Committee on Accessible Transportation, or as we know it, CAT. And I'll ask Director Irish Bauman to comment on that.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Irish,
the CAT held its monthly meeting last week, March 7th.
Her name is Lori Irish Bauman.
17th. Here's a very quick report. The CAT heard from Pat Williams, who's the Director for Security and Emergency Management. He spoke about
this woman is a lawyer who does business litigation. Perfect for the Trimet board. A woman who does business litigation as law. Really somebody who's really sensitive to what transit riders and employees need.
Implementing the Reimagining Public Safety Initiative. He also talked about a current issue. He said that data analysis has identified 5 bus lines that experience the most assaults and disruptions. And he said that security staff are increasing their presence on those bus lines with the goal of reducing assaults on operators and riders. And that's been well received, including by operators who feel more safe now. John Gardner gave a presentation on the project for reimagining public safety and security. He said that in the next 24 months, there'll be a focus on training, technology, communication, system presence, and infrastructure. Finally, the Lyft staff gave a report on Lyft operations, including they reported that the data shows improved on-time performance in the Lyft function. So that was good news, and that is the report.
Thank you very much, Director Bauman. Are there any questions or comments?
I need a drink to watch
Bauman?
this nonsense.
See none, then let's move on to the next committee, which is the Finance and Audit Committee. Director Simmons.
Good morning, everyone. This morning, the Finance and Audit Committee met, and we reviewed 3 topics, which I'll talk about individually. One is the proposed budget update. The other is the review of the FY21 budget appropriations resolution, which we will receive in April, and then an update on labor negotiations. First, the proposed budget that we're going to act on today and be asked to approve. Nancy Young-Oliver provided us not only an overview of it, but an online interaction with how the document has changed. And also that Trimet has received a Government Finance Officer's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, received it in July of 2020 based on the reformat of our budget document. And for Laverne, you haven't seen our budget document prior to this one, but oh my gosh, it has changed so substantially, and the features and functions that are available online versus the written document really raised the question about whether board members want to receive the physical document or in the future, or whether the online version. And so we'll each get an option as to how we receive future budget documents. Trying to look at, we can't actually realize the features and functions unless it's electronic. So it's up to each individual. So we'll be looking at that and being asked to approve the FY22 annual budget later in today's meeting. We also got a preview by Dee and Nancy Young Oliver on the budget appropriation resolutions that we'll be asked to approve in our April meeting, and remind board members that a budget is nothing more than a plan. And when the staff build a budget, they build contingency authorization, because if through the year we receive additional resources or we want to spend money in different ways, the contingency allows us to modify the budget during the year by moving that spending authority into the budget. So that's what we'll be doing in April. And then lastly, Kim Sewell and Laird Cusack gave us an update on where we are in terms of labor negotiations.
Yeah, you're
and,
nowhere. You're liars.
What some of the next steps are moving forward. So as Bruce indicated, we sincerely, all of us sincerely hope that we can come to an equitable resolution on both parties' side in terms of this.
You're lying!
Resolving this contract.
Stop lying!
Thank you.
How can we stand these people?
Questions or comments for Director Simmons?
Look at her, she looks like a goofball, doesn't she?
Let's move on to the Metro Policy Advisory Committee impact. I don't know whether they've been meeting Director Way, but is there an update this morning?
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I just was having a lot of technical difficulties this morning, and I know Director Edwards was also trying to get in. So good morning, everyone, and welcome, Dr. Laverne Lewis. Very excited that you are joining our board and looking forward to working with you. So there are 3 items on impact at the February 24th meeting that I just wanted to quickly cover. The first is a review of the economic recovery strategy. This is a comprehensive economic development strategy that gets renewed every 5 years. Metro is working very closely with Greater Portland, Inc., and this is really a targeted strategy to help businesses, small businesses that have been hardest hit by COVID, and in particularly immigrant, refugee, Black, Indigenous, people of color-owned businesses. The second impact area is really advancing economic mobility for the region, and that also includes supporting families and children as a part of that. So again, it's a regional effort. The second item that we discussed was regional emergency transportation routes. You may remember that last year we had a significant amount of wildfires, particularly in my county and in Clackamas, and I know that parts of Washington were also affected by this. This is about, about a year and a half planning project with 30 representatives from 17 agencies to really provide expertise in emergency transportation planning, operation, and public transit. And there's a targeted stakeholder outreach and engagement process happening currently. And in winter and spring, there will be a review and an acceptance of this particular process of looking at various routes and corridors for emergency and an implementation after that. And then last but not least, we also heard about an opportunity for community-based organizations that are particularly serving, again, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. It's a funding opportunity for them to get multi-year funding by Metro. It focuses on working towards Metro's goals in the region, as well as civic engagement and leadership development. And letter of interests are due on March 31st. Applications from finalists May 7th, and grantees will be notified May 21st. So they've asked all of us to spread the word to any, any community-based organizations in our area who might be interested in this capacity building grant. And then I just want to say just two things because it's just one of the issues that's just really hit home to me. But as many of you may know, there was a very recent and tragic shooting that happened early last week where, 8 folks were targeted and killed in Atlanta, Georgia. 6 of them were Asian women, and this is, a hate crime, targeted hate crime based on race and based on gender. And the Asian community has just really been hurting from not only that experience, but also just from just a massive uptake in Asian hate violence and, hate crimes that has been happening really since the beginning of the pandemic due to, terrible language that's coming out. So I just really appreciated Trimet for, and Sam and others for presenting a statement. I think it's really important for particularly the Asian community to know and feel like we are hearing them.
Yeah, right. All this nice, we're in a, we're living in a racist, murderous culture, man. Okay. It's not going to go away by any of these little grandstanding things. This is where we live. Do you understand? We live in we just had 4 years of Trump. Who do you think supported that motherfucker? Okay. Basically they're a racist. Okay. They believed in getting rid of Mexicans. I don't want to go into that. That's not why I'm listening to this, but I mean, all of this isn't going to change. It's going to get worse is what I'm trying to say. Okay. As we go down as a society, you have 20% of the people living in a ditch and then another 40% that are doing okay at the moment. And then you have your top people that are just doing great. As our society continues going into the gutter, it's just going to get worse. And there's no signs it's going to turn around. Okay. The only people getting rich are the rich. The rest of us are treading water.
As an agency, and that we are here to, protect them as well as support other communities who may be impacted by, race and discrimination. So thank you. And just sorry, last but not least, since I missed the earlier testimony, I only caught a little bit of, what ATU and some of the workers were saying. And, I know that we are in a unique position right now with discussions on labor negotiation, but I just want to highlight just the importance of apprenticeship programs and supporting our workers, especially those on the front line. Get out there and do something about it. I see this for me as one board member as a leadership opportunity, a training opportunity for our workers, and especially ones who are looking for Trimet for opportunities to grow in our agency. So that's how I feel. And I know that Director Edwards was trying to get on. I know that his voice was very also important in this issue. And once he joins on, I would definitely love, our board to give him an opportunity to speak about this as well. Thank you for the extended time.
I realize I'm still muted. So are there any questions for Director Way about the Metro Policy Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I've got a question, President Warner. Actually, it's not so much a question. It's more of a request, a friendly request. There was some grant opportunities that were mentioned, capacity building grants. We have several community partners in the Transit Equity Advisory Committee who sound like potential applicants and great beneficiaries, candidates for these applications. I encourage you to make sure that John Gardner and the team have information about that and have an opportunity to extend it to our TAC partners. I think that would be a fantastic thing to do to extend to our network.
Good. We will do that. Thank you. And I see Director Edwards is finally with us. He's got his computer problem solved. So welcome.
Very much. It's good to finally be here. I was getting a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, I bet you
Well,
would.
I'm going to be honest. I was getting a lot frustrated.
Okay. Well, let's go to the last board report that's on our under our agenda today, which is the GM search committee.
Yeah, how do you like this? Okay, we were all whining about Trump. I knew this was going to happen. We knew that Biden was going to really be no different. He's going to be a more sophisticated version of Trump. The Biden administration is pushing for the Supreme Court to allow police to enter your home and seize weapons without a warrant. I mean, that's fascism. That's what it is. They're just going to come in now. I mean, our society is finished. Okay, it's over. Okay, these elites, they're not feeling any of this because they're elites. But the rest of us down here in the gutter, we know the deal. Okay, this country's going down.
Committee update. Director Bauman, do you want to kick this off?
You can turn that
President
on.
Warner?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to point out there's a TIAC in there right between MPAC and the GM search update. I just didn't want to overlook them.
I tried to get it twice earlier, so let's go back. I'm sorry. So let's go back to the Transit Equity Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for your subtle hint that I can't keep the agenda straight. Director Gonzalez, please give us a report.
I'll make it as brief as I can. I appreciate it. We had a great, brief yet focused TIAC meeting in March. It began with an update from me on the GM recruitment. And it was an opportunity to share an overview on the discussions we've had at the committee level, the efforts that we are discussing on how to bring the community into the process. So it was a great opportunity to just share an update, get some feedback, and we gave some updates on the surveys and the results of some of that, which you'll hear about in a sec. So we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about the planned timeline, the phases of the selection process, and some of the TIAC members were able to ask questions and get a little deeper on the status of this. We agreed to provide some recruitment updates to TIAC throughout this process and every meeting until it's completed. So that was well received. And then I took off. I had to go lead our Spanish language community forum on the GM search process. And so that was a really exciting thing. But once I left, staff took over and had a series of updates. They talked about some of the measures around COVID, around the cleaning of the system, around the services, and then Carl Green provided an update. He's our director on the Title VI program, and so he was providing an update on the Title VI review for all of the proposed service changes that we're about to discuss in the ordinances. And then at the end, a few TIAC members shared some updates from their agencies, from their organizations, and then the meeting was adjourned. It went pretty quick, and we have an announcement that we shared with everyone at TIAC, which I'd like to share with you. We've got a new member joining TIAC in our next meeting. The April meeting, scheduled for the 13th of April, will have the Urban League as a new representative. So we're excited to be bringing the Urban League on board to the TIAC committee.
Good. Thank you. Questions or comments for Director Gonzalez?
No. Go ahead, get on to the general manager.
Now we'll move on to the GM search committee update. And Director Bauman, do you want to kick this off? And maybe you and JC can tag team on this.
There's another one.
Right, thank you. So the search committee, as you know, is me, Director Gonzalez, and Director Simmons.
The search committee, how much did they pay? They didn't hire KL2 Connect. I was surprised. They hired somebody else this time. Of course, they should be doing this in-house, but they want to do that so they can do this in secret, and then they can say, well, the private company doesn't have to tell you their processes. I mean, this is a standard. You contract to a private company so the private company can keep any secrets so that they're not subject to public records requests. Okay, this should all be in-house, obviously, but yeah, you know how it goes. It's government, man. It's not, everything is secret and hidden, and
We, with input from the community and from stakeholders, we've prepared a job description for the general manager. And
another fake propaganda campaign. Give us your feedback on what would you be. What a bunch of shit. I can't believe the kind of crap that comes out of this Trimet marketing department and how people just fall for it. I watch it on Twitter. They post some stupid little, well, what did you like? The deer or the beaver? And hundreds of people respond to it. It's like you watching the brain dead American public get their brain washed by these government agencies, and they all just love it. They just love their slavery. They love it. They eat it up.
Later in the meeting, we're going to ask the board to approve that job description so that the recruitment can begin. But first,
they haven't even started.
JC is going to present. JC Van Natta is going to present a summary of the outreach that has taken place so far. And before that, though, I do want to introduce Greg Moser, our executive recruiter, who is here today, who will be available to answer questions.
They got a whole goddamn executive just to recruit. Oh, God. They have to pull buses off of routes when their stupid train breaks down, which is virtually every day. But they have an executive just to recruit this position. Do you get it? Am I the only one? Am I the only one that gets it? Everybody hates me. I know that because, nobody wants to hear the truth. Fuck, they crucified Jesus rather than listen to his truth. They'd rather kill him, People don't want to hear the truth. They want the nice, comforting lies that they're told every day, and they want to believe in things.
All right, JC.
Yes, thank you, Director Bauman. Jeff,
Jesus.
do you have the PowerPoint? Will you be bringing it up?
I was not sent the PowerPoint.
Cross-eyed motherfucker.
Oh, okay. Let me quickly bring it up. Sorry.
I don't like this guy because of his way the whole Lane Jensen affair, which nobody remembers but me. But the way they persecuted him, they falsely charged him. They did what they did to him. I still remember. These people are low. All right, they're very scuzzy, slimy. They're like insects that just can't wait to devour you. What they did to Lane Jensen was unconscionable, and he was part of that. So I know what kind of person he is. And they're all this way, but I know personally that he participated in the false persecution of Lane Jensen. And here he is, and all these scuzz buckets, they all get promoted. Now he's what, assistant fucking general manager or some nonsense. He was a pal of, they just promote themselves up. They're like these parasites. They get in these jobs and they promote each other up. It's just disgraceful, man. I mean, I really can't, having a hard time watching this because this guy, I hate this guy, okay? Because he was part of that whole cabal that falsely accused Lane Jensen. Come on, move it. Stupid, I don't. Leader in technology.
Okay, let me share.
What? Duh. Look at these goofballs. Look at these.
1 second. Getting my screen to share.
Bruce.
There we go.
Can't we get you out of here, Bruce?
There we go. So I think I'm just going to use this mode if you all don't mind, because
Microsoft Word.
I'm most familiar with it and I have less technical issues. So this is just an update from what you saw last Friday during your executive session on our GM hiring outreach.
Yeah. They did all of their sessions in secret. Okay. No, they're just lucky I have no audience, man. They're just lucky.
And I'll go through this fairly quickly. You all have, to date, all of the outreach that we have received. And so it's in those spreadsheets, the emails, the verbatims,
fake
the
marketing.
survey, it's all in.
We've seen this a million times. Their little fake marketing bullshit they put out. Here, participate with us. It's all fake.
Your hands. Just a reminder that the feedback that we have received have really three functions. The tweaks to the job description, which is before you now, and it also will help inform all of you on your overall evaluation of the candidates and the ultimate decision that you will make. And it's also going to help inform interview questions that the search committee develops. Now, utilizing a public engagement plan approved by the search committee, we launched on February 15th. We started with trimet.org/GM. That was our housing area for all of our stuff related to the search, our timeline and information. We also began promoting our survey and listening sessions. We sent out a media release like we normally do, getting coverage on it out over to 4,000 people. And we also sent it internally to all of our employees. And we promoted the survey and listening session to all of them, and we'll go over that here in a second. We then launched an email campaign, sending it out to over 100,000 people, promoting our survey and our listening sessions to community-based organizations, lawmakers, low-income fair participants, and even our own employees. So trying to get the word out far and wide. We also utilized both of our newsletters internally. One is our main newsletter, and then we also used our Equity on the Move newsletter, sending the information and survey listening sessions out in multiple languages, where the surveys were in multiple languages as well. We also did a lot of work to get this digitally in front of people. A lot of folks, obviously, during the pandemic, excuse me, aren't picking up newspapers like they used to. So we really tried to get it into the places where people were getting information, a lot of social media through our community-based organizations. We did do ads in English, Spanish, and Russian, what we found out, and we continue to learn a lot about our outreach efforts. I would say, especially during the pandemic, we weren't able to purchase ads in Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. There aren't large enough communities. So we really worked at getting the surveys in those languages really out to folks through our community-based organizations. You all know, and thank you for participating in 4 listening sessions, 1 in Spanish, as Director Gonzalez said, and 3 in English. We had them streaming via WebEx, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
That's it.
You can see the tallies on your screen.
28 YouTube viewers, that's all?
Verbal. So a pretty good showing, although a lot, other people have a lot of things going on. Here are a couple of quotes I just wanted to share with you and the community of what we heard. Now, these are just a sampling, but the new GM must know that some of the immigrant community escaped from their country where they experienced violent acts by police. Please offer training for Trimet police. The person, GM, must understand that the customer is the most important and that transit service must be accessible as possible to the largest number of community members.
Nice.
2 more quotes I want to share. He or she must understand that the employees are not just a number, but the main part that make everything else.
What about giving us a
general
contract and
manager
stop
should
fucking
have
with
good
us?
leadership, be open to ideas and accept feedback, and should know about buses, routes in the city, and Trimet itself. So those are just some quotes to give you an idea.
Oh, that's just
of what
lovely.
we
Thank
heard.
you, JC.
The themes, obviously you all know this, cultural competency. They want better safety and security, and you'll see more of that. Better communication to riders, improvements in the system infrastructure, union contract, working with our union to on their new contract, must have previous experience, really looking at service frequency, and you're going to hear more about that. And then, of course, leadership. One of our biggest things that we put in front of folks was the survey. I call it the universal feedback tool, but that way it helps hone in getting feedback in a logical thought process. To date, well, not to date, but as of March 19th, we had over 3,200 surveys filled out, a bulk of them from our Riders Club, our website, our massive database at Trimet. And we even had some of our customer service folks with QR codes. Within the pandemic, we're all familiar with QR codes now, and they really had QR codes out at transit facilities where people could scan it with their phones and then take the survey. 47 came in through our community-based organizations. 58 were done in Spanish, Russian, and Chinese. No surveys came back in Vietnamese or Korean, and 420 of our own employees took the survey and responded. I'll just touch on this. We had a great smattering of age, gender, and the ethnicity kind of matched what our region looks like. You'll see over the counties how it broke out. But I think what was really important is ridership. Do they ride now? Did they ride before COVID? And an interesting factoid that 9% responded to the survey and had never ridden Trimet. Now let's go into the survey. How important are the following attributes of a GM candidate? The first and foremost is the ability to install a culture of safety for both employees and customers. And you're going to continue to hear that. Number 2 and 3, experience in delivering high levels of customer service and satisfaction, and understanding and responding to issues relating to equity and racial and environmental justice. So those are the kind of the top
Bitcoin
3.
moving up, folks.
You'll see history of leading inclusive public decision-making processes next, addressing climate change, crisis management, and helping to lead the agency out of the COVID downturn. Oh goodness, sorry. And then rounding out that, demonstrated ability to grow ridership and a background in leading and delivering major construction projects. Question 2, what would be most important to you? Most people said experience in the transit field in a similar sized agency. 30% had a long history with and familiarity with the Portland region. In the other category, from the public, we heard leadership, the top response. From our own employees, it was really working with the union and how the new general manager should value employees. Question 3, which challenge ahead should the new general manager best be prepared for? Let's just look at the numbers, and they should be prepared for it all. The number 1, expanding service. Number 2, addressing safety and security. Number 3, the backlog, managing the backlog of capital repairs. 4, managing the agency through COVID, building ridership, and then achieving Trimet's climate action goals. You'll see in other, we asked for open-ended. The top were from the public were no fares or less fares, and from employees was working with the union and valuing employees. And then finally, the 4th one, and this was an open-ended question that we asked folks, what's the one thing the new general manager should know about Trimet? And so, people say these in their own words, and you have all of these verbatims, and I know Director Simmons has gone through them all. Thank you for that. But we kind of tabulated them. Most, you'll see, are wanting more security and safety and enforcing the rules on board. The second one, service expansion.
Gold and silver price, I'm a collector of metals. Gold and silver prices are at the lowest they've been in years. And guess what? You can't get any. There's no gold or silver available. You have to pre-order it. And yet it's at the lowest prices it's been in years. What a farce our whole economic system really is.
Working with the union and valuing employees. So some good information in your hands now about what we had heard. We will continue doing the outreach. The outreach will not stop. We'll continue getting the survey results.
42 minutes.
All of the information coming in through the feedback, our feedback channels, we will be handing to you every Friday. So that you continue to hear what people are saying.
Baloney.
We have meetings planned with
relations.
our community-based organizations, so we'll still be taking in feedback and passing that along to you. We are also going to be promoting your board meetings, the public forum, and your board meetings in case people don't feel like they've been heard, whether it's been through the listening session or the survey or a comment. They have the ability to come and testify at your board meeting. So we'll be continuing to promote those. And then finally, our recruiter, Greg Mosier, who you'll hear from, he's been doing some direct phone calls to key stakeholders to get their feedback. Again, all of this to help inform you for your ultimate decision of the next general manager, and then also some of the interview questions. That's all I have for this morning. I will take any questions that you might have.
Well, that's a whole bunch of nothing, isn't it?
You're muted, President Warner.
And any questions for JC, Banana, or Director Bauman on this issue? And I don't know whether you want to have Greg comment now or comment during the agenda item later on.
I'd appreciate hearing from Greg now so that we can let him go. Greg, just about the outreach you've done, but also how you're going to use the job description as part of our next steps in recruiting.
Yeah, thank you, Director Bauman, and thank you to the search committee. JC, thank you for all the outreach efforts you did, because it was incredibly helpful for me to get that perspective as well. I did some outreach to help sort of support and complement this, and talk to a number of key stakeholders in the community through direct conversations, phone conversations. And I think a lot of the themes that JC pointed out were highlighted in my conversations. And maybe I'll just share a few of those with you if you wouldn't mind, and then I'll talk about how we use those to incorporate into the job description. In my conversations, things like safety and security were paramount, because if we don't have a safe and secure system, people won't feel comfortable getting on it and won't use the system in the first place. So that was certainly a paramount part of our conversations. Ensuring good operations and on-time service that is affordable was something that came up. We had a number of conversations that I of key stakeholders that I spoke to that talked about ensuring that there was good, adequate service, particularly to dependent riders, people who don't have access to other means of transportation. And I think one of the concerns in the community today is that there are a number of areas that don't have good supported networks of services, and that they want the next CEO and Trimet as an organization to be able to look and work with to identify areas where there can be additional services. I think the other thing I heard that ties into that is being an integral player in the community about different needs. And transit is one aspect of providing better services and better access to the community as a whole. And so they'd like to see the CEO be someone who is present and a thought leader and actively engaged in the conversation around providing better transit services and making the community better as a whole, and how transit can be a vehicle in terms of making the community better as a whole. We spent a lot of time talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ensuring that there is fair and adequate services for not only the customer, the rider, but also making sure that Trimet as an organization is representing the community as a whole, and it is reflected in the types of people that are working at Trimet also reflect the community. That translated into a conversation in a lot of cases about customer service interface, that not that any employee is more important than another employee, but the person or the people that the riders see on a daily basis are those people who are out and about in the community, that are the drivers, the operators, the people who are maintaining the system. And so they want to make sure that from the CEO's perspective, there's good engagement and there's good support and good understanding, because ensuring that they're out there providing good customer service, that they're smiling and being responsive to the passengers that get on and off of the system. They also wanted to make sure that the CEO was going and meeting with those employees and listening to what their needs are, because they are the frontline voice and the eyes and the ears of the system as well. And so if a passenger has a concern or someone in the public has a concern, oftentimes those concerns are being shared directly with the operator, with the drivers. And so being engaged, going out to the maintenance shops, going out to the bus yards or the rail stations and listening to those folks and hearing what's going on, and getting that feedback and taking that to heart and communicating that to the management team so that changes can be made would be incredibly important. We talked about, we spent some time also talking about climate change, concerns around making sure that Portland is responding to things that are happening, and that led us to various types of emergency preparedness, whether there's an environmental situation that goes on, like a bad storm that comes in, and Trimet needs to help prepare and respond to it, or there's some other sort of emergency situation in the region, that Trimet is a active participant in those sorts of situations, and making sure that there's responses provided, that we make sure that Trimet's well prepared in dealing with those sorts of things. I think that overall, I got a lot of feedback on making sure that the executive is someone who's a good steward, someone who is listening and responsive, someone who treats people fairly, the employees and the customers, and just treats the entire community and all of the stakeholders fairly, someone who listens, someone who's responsive, and someone who finds solutions to a lot of different problems. You've got a lot of different stakeholders. There are a lot of communities that Trimet provides services to. And so a lot of the feedback I heard and a lot of the comments I heard were really about making sure that Trimet as a whole and through the CEO try to find solutions that can solve a lot of different problems, that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and that there's not, what may be important for one segment of the community may not be as important for another one, and vice versa. So you've got to work together to try to find something that can work better for everyone. And so those were a lot of the comments I heard, just as a quick summary. I think that what we did was we went back to the job description, and we had a draft job description, which I think was started off very comprehensive. And we made sure that we really reflected on all of these comments, both from the surveys and the input that JC got, and then also the direct feedback I got, to make sure that we were inclusive of all of this information. And I think that based on my experience, I think that the job description well reflects that. It doesn't get into every nuanced detail, but I don't think that's the intent and the purpose of a job description.
They've had general manager for over half a century, and now they're making this big deal out of the general manager. This is all public relations. You do know that, right? People know that? This is all marketing, public relations. There's nothing here. There's nothing. Okay? They've had a general manager from the day this place started. So they're trying to pretend that this is going to be some new general manager type, that's something going to be different from what it's been in the past, and it's just marketing. It's marketing.
Description is really set out to incorporate these broad major themes. I think also the job description represents a wish list of all of the areas we want to try to target. And I often say that no one particular person is going to possess all of these items, but this really sets a stage for what we are striving to become and where we're striving to go. And so that's what we seek and go out and set our eyes on. And really, as we go and reflect on the candidates and we start to go through interviews and assess these candidates, we use this as sort of the fundamental framework to evaluate those candidates upon. So I think that that's important also. I plan to share this job description. We're going to advertise this so that anyone who feels that they're qualified and would like to apply for the position has the ability to do so. And I will review all of those resumes and all of that information that comes in to qualify those candidates who meet the qualifications. And I'll also send those to candidates who reach out to me asking for the job description and walk them through with us and explain areas that they may have questions about if something is not as clear to them as to what we specifically mean by a certain area. So, but I will also use this as the criteria that I look at and evaluate candidates as I start to siphon this down and provide you with what I believe to be the strongest candidates that are available. And so I'm really excited to go out there.
So they have a whole executive just for this.
My goal is to go out and identify.
Well, they gave him 100,000. Who knows how
much?
A whole bunch of money.
And ensure that diversity is represented and again reflect the needs of the community, both in terms of the technical capabilities and also the interpersonal skills, and then the makeup of the individual people that I'm recruiting as well. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. I think you have a well-written, comprehensive job description, and I'm looking forward to bringing you some great candidates.
Thank you. Dr. Baumann, before I get the...
I can't do any more of this today. It's just, oh God, it's painful watching this. This whole fucking scripted show pretending that they're going to do something extraordinary when we know what's going to happen. They're going to give us another goddamn technocrat. That's what they're going to do. All of this is nothing but window dressing over and out.